Yes. Shalom, Chabarim. Shalom, Rastafari. Chabarim. Gemar, Chatama Tova. Gemar, Chatama Tova. That's a greeting for Yom Kippurim, for the Day of the Atonement. And I want to heal up Sasha Lapasha, I brother, for the IG post that he posted. And then I read through it, and the reason, man, I said, Chan, I didn't know that some ones think that it's Rastafari tradition to fast on the Sabbath. I haven't come across that. It's not I of the Royal Order of the Ethiopian Hebrews after the order of Melchizedek, the Lion of Judah Society. I have not taught such things and have not learned it that way. But we did hear certain ones say certain things that now that the brother posted what he posted. I got some screenshots because right now I had to put it on airplane mode just to zoom in on this particular subject matter, and seeing that this right here in the season, the Yom Kippurim. Many say Yom Kippur, and there we seek to correct, right? That's not Yom Kippur. Only in modern Judaism and nowadays people just say it like in a short way, Yom Kippur. But in HaTorah, it's Yom HaKippurim. Right? So here's like a full spelling of what the reason for the season. Yet it's our brother Sasha Lapasha that had posted a Day of Atonements. Now remember, it's your brother here, Ras Yadin, that's saying it is Day of the Atonements. It's not just Yom Kippur, it is Yom HaKippurim, the Day of the Atonements. Atonements, add an S to that. Yes, the Day of the Atonements. And perhaps some of these things that we have sought to bring forward and to correct or to amplify just as haven't been put up. Maybe we're not really effective, at that, or maybe ones just don't hear, or maybe just a few of us that, reason and communicate. It hasn't really reached, more and more ones. But hopefully the I can be, co-laborers in the ministry of His Majesty to make sure this word is getting forward. But this particular vlog and vid right here is concerning fasting. Right? Fasting. Okay, let's pause this right here. I want to bring up some of what the brother has posted. We sought to respond to that post right there. And the more we sought to think on what brother Sasha Lapasha had brought forward, we said, Chan, many brothers are thinking and ones are thinking it's Rastafari tradition. I'm saying, what mansion, what camp? Which mansion? Perhaps there's, my father's house, there are many mansions. The word says that, a Robenu, I Rabbi, the Rabbi of rabbis, our black Lord and Savior, Yeshua HaMoshiach. He says, in my father's house, there are many mansions. So in the Beit Rastafari, the Beit of Rastafari, there are many mansions. There's different camps and different mansions of Rastafari. So certain camps or certain mansions or certain groups of brethren might choose to do something or interpret it a certain way, right? And this is not, I judgment. It's just going to what Jah says in the Word, going to the glory of His Majesty, namely the Bible. So based on the Bible, as it's called, the Bible, the Scriptures, and based on HaTorah, there's no fasting. There's no fasting on the Sabbath. I'm talking about what's called the weekly Sabbath, the seventh day Sabbath. The seventh day Sabbath, there's no fasting. There's no fasting on Yom HaShabbat. And we can go through the scripts. If you can find in the scripture where you think it's saying to us that we fast on Yom HaShabbat, then bring it out and let's go through that right there. Right? We have many vids that we have already done, many of them were posted, but because of what YouTube did for previous channel, Rastafari Sabbatical, that these videos are no longer there. Otherwise, we can just, reference you to one of the former videos that we had already did and was posted on the Rastafari Sabbatical. I think one concerning fasting and to fast or not to fast. Some of the Chabarim might remember that video. I think it was a Yom HaKippurim video, the Day of the Atonements, video from previous, probably a couple of years ago now, at least between maybe 5, probably not 7, between maybe 5 or so, give or take. Years ago, we had touched on the topic, the subject matter of to fast or not to fast. Even there's been an audio that's been published on the podcast as well, Discipleship Radio podcast, to fast or not to fast. But let's go to, like to share right here, share I and I brothers, his IG post, at least a part of the screenshots that we got from the IG post, so more and more ones can, understand what we're responding to here and why we are calling this no fasting. Rastafari, no fasting on Shabbat day. On Day of Atonement, maybe. No fasting on Shabbat day, but maybe, if one chooses to, on the Day of the Atonements, what's called Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, maybe. We say maybe. Now, in some of the Yehudi, Judaic circles, black and white and otherwise, some choose to. By tradition, it's usually chosen to fast a 24, 25 hour fast for this time in this season, the Day of the Atonements, right? And we're going to explain why that's so. But first thing first, let's see if we can do this right here. Yes, okay, so here's screenshot from Sasha Lapasha 8 right here. Brother, give thanks. Gemar Chatama Tova. Here, Yom Kippur. Now, Yom Kippur, is it Yom Kippur? Perhaps we're going to do a video. We should do a vlog, a short video on that. Is it Yom Kippur or Yom HaKippurim? Is it... No, most say Yom Kippur. This is how we commonly, get it. But as we studying Torah, we get to find out that it's not Yom Kippur. It's actually Yom HaKippurim. Right? It's Rastafari. Right? Rastafari. Rebbe, Rabbi. This channel, this platform, this ministry of His Divine Majesty that has said that. But it's like what is it Proverbs that says, or Ecclesiastes, where it speaks about, I know it's from Shlomo HaMelech, where he said, a city was saved, I'm going to paraphrase here, a city was saved by a poor man. There was this poor man that saved this whole city, but nobody remembered the poor man's name. It's like this ministry. There's a poor man that's helping to save the city of Rastafari, but nobody really remembers, that poor man. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, here, get this. This is more important than that. What's more important is that it's not Yom Kippur in the scripture, it's Yom HaKippurim. So it's not the Day of Atonement in the singular, according to Torah, and in the Hebrew, it's the Day of the Atonements. So you really should add an S to atonement, according to the scripture. Every Torah, Hebrew, reading Jew, whether black or white or otherwise, know that to be true. If you can read the Torah and you read the Torah, you can quote to me anywhere in Torah from the scripts, right, from the Hebrew, right, Be'ibrit, right, in the Hebrew, and you will see and hear for yourself. It is Yom HaKippurim. It's not even this Day of Atonement, but a Day of the Atonements. All right. So, technically speaking, this is not right and accurate. This is generally in that direction, but it's not right and accurate. All right. So yeah, I think we need to do a vlog on that right there. But here. Okay. So here's one of the stills. So okay, let's see if we can get this one over. Okay, this is the first one that caught my attention right here, Sasha Lapasha, right? So here on his Instagram post, all right, got the Hebrew up there. It says, as it is written in the tables, which he gave into my hands, that I should write out for thee the laws of the seasons, and the seasons according to the divisions of their days. Herewith is completed the account of the division of the days. Now, here is... This version of the translation comes from the Hebrew, and it comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls. But it's very interesting that the first text that the Western Gentile world knew about was the Ethiopic manuscript. And what the LOJS Society, LOJS, has republished and has available in print is the Ethiopic, right? As well as we have the Ethiopic, we have the translation. I think it's the R.H. Charles, very good translator there. R.H. Charles, also the Ethiopic Book of Enoch, as well as the Ethiopic, and also the later Royal Amharic, vis-a-vis Kadamawi Haile Selassie, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. So we have the original, the old manuscript, we have the translation, we also have the Ethiopic, the Ge'ez manuscript, and also from the King of Kings Bible as well concerning these particular documents. But this can do for now, from what we've read. It seems to be much similar and the same. We don't see anything that, like the antennas, raise up and say, well, let's check that out. So this is go with this right here. So what he does right here, Brother Sasha Lapasha, is he gives a quote from, I think it's chapter 50 of the Book of Jubilees, the Dead Sea Scrolls version, the later version that was said to be found, but during the time, right, and the visitation of Kadamawi Haile Selassie. That's interesting that those Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nag Hammadi Scrolls were all found, right? It says, in his times he shall shew who is the blessed and only potentate, the King of Kings. Yes, I, Lord of Lords, conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. Yes, I weep not, behold. So here, Sasha Lapasha, brother, he asked this question. He said this. He made a statement here. He said, I thought we had to fast on Shabbat, according to Rastafari tradition. And I have never taught that, because even I Chabarim, the fellow Chabarim, we reason on these things, and that's never come up. But I think maybe in some of the other Rastafari camps, or certain Rastafari, for example, I think it's Warrior King has a tune. We actually uploaded it on the board. We played it a few times. We loved the tune, you know what I mean? But as we start to listen to the relics, I think it is Warrior King. Let's see if we can find out who it is right here. I have our laptop right here in front of us. Let's see. I think it's a Sabbath tune. We have a lot of Sabbath audio on the board for the radio broadcast. The podcast right here. Let's just put Warrior right here, and it might come up. Yeah, it's is it Fitta Warrior Sabbath Day? Fitta Warrior. Oh, okay. Yeah, it is Warrior King Sabbath Day. What is that? Imitation Rhythm? Yeah, I guess that's on the imitation rhythm, called an imitation rhythm. Love his tune, though, The Virtuous Woman. We really like to include that in the TJIF Thank Jah Rastafari Thank Jah. The TJIF Thank Jah is Friday podcast right there. It's a compliment to what is said at the Seder, from Proverbs chapter 31, verse 10 to 31. The virtuous woman, the Eshet Chaya, the woman of power, the woman of valor, right? Because it really kicks in the face all that anti-Bible sexist rhetoric when you really see and hear what Proverbs chapter 31 verses 10 to 31, and in the Yehudi, Jah people, and ancient LOJ line of Judah trod, and even modern Judaism, right? It's what is said at the Sabbath table, right, by the man of the house, and it points out the virtues of a virtuous woman. Really, the Eshet Chayil is Eshet woman, Oset, Eshet Chayil, like Chayla, power. But that being that, the tune right here is Warrior King, Sabbath Day, right? And in this particular tune, I think I listened to a few times, and I think Brother Chaber Sheli Ras Yasin can no doubt vouch for this. I know I reasoned with him and said, I love the tune. Love this tune right here for the Sabbath Day tune. But I think I hear him saying that to fast on the Sabbath Day. Right? To fast on the Sabbath Day. I didn't go look up the lyrics. I don't know if the relics are out there. But that's what I thought I heard. Right? And when I heard it, that was somewhat disturbing, because I know that Torah, the Torah, Jah direction, instruction, the glory of his majesty, as His Majesty Gormawi Nguseneged says, for my part I glory in the Bible. So John Hoy say it, and I, his namesake, receive it as truth, does not speak on that wise. All right? But then when I saw this right here, about within the last hour, I'm going into this video just straight way. You know, that's why you see right here, I said, very interesting question, bro. On the old Rastafari, old channel, Rastafari Sabbatical, like on the YouTube, we went into this. We went into at least the point about the or the point about Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur. Now, whether we actually did a video to say no fasting on the Sabbath day, that particular subject matter as a so-called issue never came up, fasting on the Sabbath day. I mean, even various brothers and sisters, we talk about, yeah, you know, you got to make your food, prepare your food the day before. And there's even a tune by Benjamite, I think it's on the Sabbath day. Let's just bring this up right here. You can look these up. They should still be up there on the YouTubes. In the Sabbath Day by Benjamite, instrumental by Rico Dubwise. In the Sabbath Day by Benjamite. You should be able to find that particular tune. I think one of the Chabarim might have been Yasin or Yifti might have found that particular tune right there. But once that tune got up on the board, you know, we played almost every Sabbath, Shabbat, Eve, the Erev HaShabbat, the eve of the Sabbath, which is Friday, right? Evening and morning one day, right? And even if you listen to the relics or the words of that particular tune, right, it reflects the same truth that we hold to as Rastafari, right, Yehudim, as Rastafari Jews, Judahites of the line of the tribe of Judah, we the black Jews of the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, right, that, you know, prepare your food the day before, right, so you don't have to do that work, right? Torah even points it out, so you wouldn't have to work on the Sabbath day, you know, like lighting a fire and doing all of this and that, and, you know, preparing. Everything is already prepared, and one can receive Yom HaShabbat as a delight. Check. Okay, so here. All right, you receive that? Seen? Sight? You hear? Yes, I. So here, brother said, I thought we had to fast on Shabbats, according to Rastafari tradition. And I thought we had to fast on Yom Kippur, according to black Hebrew Israelite tradition, and maybe Jewish. All right, but it looks like we all were wrong. I think it goes on there. I think I screenshot the rest of that. Then there was, it rests from food, but always one love, brother, right? Rest from food. Okay, let's clarify this, all right? According to the glory of our namesake, the Rastafari. People ask, who was the first Rasta? We say, well, Rasta is a derivative. Let's get to the roots. Who was the first Rastafari? The first Rastafari was Kedamawi, is, and will be Kedamawi Haile Selassie, the first Rastafari. Rastafari Mekonet, a.k.a. also known as Kedamawi Haile Selassie, from the throne of great King David. All right, so here, this is one of the, so we went into this right here. We said on the Rastafari Sabbatical, the channel that they took down. All right, we got the videos and give thanks, and we also are looking for some other videos. Others have been able to share, download, and sharing what they have, so we can get the full of the collection and begin to distribute it and have it available on the social media. Those videos on the Rastafari Sabbatical again. Hail up, Ras, Kiki. Yes, I. We need to link. Right? Some of the brothers have, you know, made it their, you know, role and responsibility graciously to save and back up, you know, the videos from such a time, and hopefully even these videos right now. Now, we went into, you know, these questions and details. Some of y'all probably recall some of those videos, right? On the Day of Atonement, usually one's, little typo, there was a talk to text, it should say usually one's choose. Now, here we had to correct that with our typo end of the message. Some choose to fast on the Day of Atonement to afflict the soul. Some choose to do so. This is why, for this particular vlog right here, this video, thinking about a name, a title, Rastafari, no fasting on Sabbath day, maybe on Yom Kippur. And I say maybe, and hopefully we'll have the opportunity here to explain why do we say maybe. Why do we say maybe? Well, it's based on the scripts and the scripture. But here, it's this first part right here that really caught our attention. That the brother says, sharing his thought, that he thought that we had to fast on Shabbat according to Rastafari tradition. And we say, we don't know of such tradition, but no doubt there probably are certain Rastafari mansions or Rastafari camps that might teach it and practice it that way, according to their, you say, interpretation of Scripture. But we can go to the scripts and come, make with reason. Now, thought we had to fast on Yom Kippur, had to fast. Brother, I don't know if you've seen that video, to fast or not to fast. To fast or not to fast. I think I and I, brother Ison, that shared some of the backup copies. Check your archive, bro, if you're listening to this right here, or when you get a chance to listen to this, and see if you can find that video, to fast or not to fast. We're going to search our archives and files and seek to share it, right? And if we get that video, we'll try to re-put it up here, you know, again, to fast or not to fast. So even though it will be published again after, you know, Yom Kippurim, after this time in this season here, but ones can be prepared going forward and be able to follow up, you know, on the scripts and get to know the truth for themselves. Now let's go to the next one right here. Okay, this one right here, I think we went into also, had another message also in regards to the book of Jubilees. The Ethiopic and Royal Amharic is more authoritative. I say this because the first Jubilees or Enoch that the Western Gentile, we say whitewash world, you know, Western Gentile European world first came across was that which was preserved by the Israelites of Ethiopia, right? The Israelites of Ethiopia, right? And many received it. We say there was a good amount of ones received it, but of course there were some that were questioning it because it came from, you know, a group of black people with the positive affirmative claim as Beta Yisrael, right, and inheritors, right, of that Davidic, you could say the Davidic throne, Ark of the Covenant. And, you know, I like to say ones were haters, right? The fact that the Ethiopians of all the churches, it was the Tewahedo Church of Ethiopia that had these particular scrolls, as well as the Beta Israel, right, the Ethiopian Israelites, those Israelites of Ethiopia, right, that maintained their existence over there. Right, they had these ancient scrolls that was known to the early, you know, Christian as well as the early, we could say, Jewish, Judaic world, but were lost to them. But boom, over here, find it in Ethiopic manuscripts, right? So that's why we say that the Ethiopic, the YOS, and the Royal Amharic, the translation of the King of Kings, right, is more authoritative. But it's very good study to compare and contrast, you know, what is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls vis-a-vis, you know, the Ethiopic documents, namely Ethiopic Jubilees, the Metzhafe Kufale. It's known as Kufale, Metzhafe Kufale, the book of Kufale, the book of the divisions, the portions, the divisions, as well as the Metzhafe Hanok, the book of Hanok, of Hanok, Hanok in the Hebrew, Hanok, Bamarinya in the YOS, right? Before they ever found the fragments of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Israelites of Ethiopia had the book of Jubilees. And I emphasize that because it's like, you know, when you're the first, they try to make you the last. Of course, the word says the first shall be last, and the last, okay, so now they try to make us the last shall be first, just to remind ones and ones of the true, you know, discoveries, the true preservations of these particular manuscripts, right? So it's not as though we reject, you know, the Dead Sea Scrolls, but we just say, let's put all this in order. In fact, many ones who were skeptical of what the Ethiopians and the Israelites of Ethiopia had, once they found the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? It was like, what? Like, oh, okay, yes. I guess they did have it. You know, but they still started to strain their eye. You know what I mean? And not want to give credit where credit is due. So we just seek to give credit where credit is due. All right? You know, preservation of manuscripts over thousands of years is no easy, you know, is no easy feat, so to speak. All right? But right here, and then over here. Now this is, here we go right here. All right, so Sasha Lapasha, he quoted the book of Jubilees, chapter 50, verse 15 to 18, from the laws of the Shabbat. Now, because the Hebrew is a language right here, we know that this is like the Dead Sea Scrolls discovery, right? Which were discovered a couple of 100 years after the Western world, so-called, rediscovered from the Ethiopian Hebrews, the Israelites of Ethiopia, the Metzafe Kufale, which is known in the translation as the Book of Jubilees. But let's just read through this right here. It says, any man who doeth any work thereon, or goeth a journey, or tilleth his farm, whether in his house or any other place, or whoever lighteth a fire, or rideth on any beast, or traveleth by ship on the sea, and whoever striketh or killeth anything, or slaughtereth a beast, or a bird, or whoever catcheth an animal, or a bird, or a fish, or whoever fasteth, you see right there? Whoever fasteth, there we go right there. Whoever fasteth, or maketh war on the Sabbaths. All right, now this is a very interesting point, and we're going to put this also into perspective here, but so far, right and accurate. Let's go on right here. And then it says, the man who doeth any of these things on the Sabbath shall die, so that the Bnei Yisrael, the sons of Israel, LOJS, shall observe the Sabbaths according to the commandments regarding the Sabbaths of the land. Then right here, it says, as it is written in the tables which he gave into my hands, that I should write out for thee the laws of the seasons, and the seasons according to the division of their days. Herewith is completed the account of the division of the days. All right, now this is the later version discovered, but it does reflect from what we have read and studied in the what we regard to be the more authoritative, the Metzafe Kufale, the Ethiopic, and we have the R.H. Charles. Check out the bookstore there. Also, I think the PDF is available, right? LOJ, printers, publishers. These are some very important documents, as well as we have the print of the GUTs, because R.H. Charles is a very good researcher and translator. I mean, not only does he translate, but he helps to compare other traditions and gives us some very good footnotes that allow us to get to know more of the truth for ourselves. This is why we highly recommend it, and this is one of the reasons why, we went through the process of getting the book reprinted and in publication for the Chabarim, especially for the Rastafari elect, the Rastafari brothers, Chabarim, brotherhood, as well as for all others who just seek to know the truth for themselves. First for the Yehudi, the Jew, line of the tribe of Judah, and then for the Gentile. Yes, I, Rastafari. So here, right here, just giving an overview right here, and this is what he said that caught my attention, full of what Brother Sasha Lapasha said. Hail up, bro. Right? So he said, thought we had to fast on Shabbats according to Rastafari tradition. That's not I Rastafari tradition. That's not the tribe tradition of Rastafari that I know of. Now, of course, hopefully this can start a conversation among Rastafari, because some will say, yes, I fast. We're supposed to fast on it. Well, let's prove it according to the glory of His Majesty, according to the Bible. Let's prove it according to the tribe, right, and the tradition. And we're speaking about the Yehudi of Ethiopia. We're speaking about His Imperial Majesty. We're speaking about the Orthodox Church, the true church. And when we say the true church and the professing church, we're connecting the roots. Like as a researcher and a scholar, we like to get to the root of the matter. That's how we can compare and see the apostasy in the latter day EOTC. A lot of the apostasy has crept in the post-1975. So we look at the Ethiopian Orthodox Church pre-1975, nearly 2,000 years, and then we see the apostasy and the falling away that is creeping in after 1975. Seen? So he goes on to say right here, but it looks like we all were wrong. Bruh, I love the I, and yes, on some things, yeah, we all may have been wrong on some things, right? Other things. But this is not one thing that we all were wrong on. Many of us didn't do these things. In other words, didn't fast on the Sabbath, because from our study we got to recognize there was no fasting on the Sabbath. But we have heard certain individuals, certain ones, allude to something like fasting. I don't know whether they was fasting on a particular Sabbath or whether this was a custom or tradition, but none of the Chaverim or brothers that we have fellowship closely with have ever brought up to us, oh, I'm fasting, I fast on the Sabbath. Because if they do, we'll say, where you get that from? Where you get that from, right? It's not what I and I have learned. It's not how I and I have learned Rastafari. It's not I and I have learned the teaching of His Majesty. And it's not how I and I has, how we have taught, others. Now, concerning with Yom Kippurim, right? Concerning with the Day of Atonement, one may fast. And why don't we say may fast? Not can fast. Of course you can. You have the ability, the capability, right? But you may or you may not. Right? You may or you may not. Because he says here, because according to the book of Jubilees, whosoever fasts on the Shabbat, it's like doing work worthy of death. Wow, he says, I'm stunned. And bruh, I am stunned too. You made a very good point here. Such a good point that, we first just thought just to text you, like comment as we posted our comment on your IG and on your posts, right? On your feed. But then after we posted it, and thought on it, we said, Chan, if this brother in here has thought that, no doubt many other brothers and sisters and families have thought that. Right? Even some of those who are fellowshipping with I and I may have thought that right there. So we got to speak on that. Otherwise, we become complicit with something that we know is a lie. And we know it's a lie. It's not true. It's not good. Like I mentioned, even Warrior King tune. In his tune, he says something in one of the relics. It sounds like something about like fasting on the Sabbath day. And I heard that. And, he's a DJ, so the relics, the words go kind of fast, and, and he's going about bringing forth, the melody and all of that, and you get into the tune. But once we heard fast connected with Shabbat, we said, And truthfully speaking, it's one reason why we probably don't play that tune more. So, for the TJIF, thank Jah, it's Friday. Or on the Shabbat day, we don't really play that tune too much, but we love the tune Virtuous Woman, because of the Seder, the order for the Shabbat, what is said by the man of the house to encourage the brethren, right, to learn what Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 to 31, and the Sistren as well, so we can, kick this pseudo-feminism, pseudo-sexism against the Bible, against I and I ancient way. In fact, the Hebrew woman, right, the woman of Israel were more liberated, especially if they were learned in what, the scripts said, right, than many other nations in the past and even modern times. Because when you see the virtuous woman of Proverbs chapter 31, she owns property, she's able to buy land, she has businesses, so forth and so on. She's a virtuous woman, and because she's a virtuous woman, even her king man, right? Her king man has a better standing in the community because he has a Oset Eshet Chayil. He has a woman of valor, a woman of Chayil, of power, right? And she is praised, right? And her children call her blessed, right? So we really zoom in on the virtuous woman theme from the scripture for a multiple of reasons and reasonings. But one of them is to counter the pseudo-sexist and feminist notion, the Bible, like barefoot and pregnant and so forth and so on. And not saying that one can be barefoot or one cannot be with child. But the woman of valor was able to own property and do business where, women in the Western whitewashed Gentile Christian world, they had to fight tooth and nail, so to speak, to so-called get so-called those rights today, and it's a real question whether what rights women really truly do have. Right? It's no slight against the women who seek to have those, we could say, those God-given rights, but when you see the liberated woman of valor, the virtuous woman in Proverbs chapter 31, verses 10 to 31, and you read each verse and reason on each verse. What does this verse say? What does it mean? Right? One will be stunned, so to speak, but hopefully edified and built up. But here to this point that Sasha Lapasha is making, yes, I was stunned too, and reading your posts as well, looking over the posts and reading the posts, I was like, for real, got to say something about this. So Rastafari, no fasting on Sabbath day. No fasting on Sabbath day. Maybe on Yom Kippur. Why? Well, hopefully you take a listen here, take a look here, get your pen, your paper, sacred scripture, Bible. Let's get into this a little bit more right here, concerning you may, if one choose to. Why do we say you may fast on Yom HaKippurim? It's not Yom Kippur. And we got to do a vlog on that too. Right? Yom Kippur. Why it's not Yom Kippur but Yom HaKippurim? Maybe that'll be a good title. Just working this out even while we're doing this right here. Because all these are related subject matters, but they need to be presented, especially within social media, in almost like individually wrapped, so to speak, so that we can zoom in on this subject matter. Of course, some say we might ramble a little bit, but yeah, that might be necessary just to show the interconnectivity, but then to keep focus on the main point. So this is about fasting, right? To fast or not to fast. That was the video before that we had posted on the Rastafari sabbatical concerning the Day of the Atonements. So it's also incorrect scripturally to say Yom Kippur. Now we say that because of nowadays world, but for the Chabarim, for the disciples, I fellows, I brothers of the elect of the new name, precious name, new name Rastafari, according to John Way, Truth and Life, and according to his glory, and according to the scripts, it's the Day of the Atonements. Yom HaKippurim. HaKippurim. The Day of the Atonements. So even in the English, add an S to that. So here. Okay, so here, and speaking to Yom HaKippurim, and whether to fast. Oh, this is a wonderful tune right here. Ark, the Zion Sound. It's the 7-inch. Forgive I dub. Excellent tune for the Yom HaKippurim. Iowa and time. Also check out the replays of Jawisma Wednesday, the Wednesday podcast from September 15th, 2021. Right? So here. Yom HaKippurim. Right? HaKippurim. That is the scripturally correct way. It's a day of the atonement. It's a day of atonement, but the atonement. If we want to be just totally right and accurate, because it's important just to be totally right and accurate. Right? So here, all right, the Day of the Atonement, the Day of Atonement, Day of Atonements. So in the short view, Rastafari, Yom Kippur, but for the Chabarim to know, it's the Day of the Atonements. Right? So we're going to our very roots, we, the black Jews, of the Lion of the tribe of Judah, of Yehuda, and now we're going to have to go to the scripts. All right, let's go to the scripts right here. Let's get to the scripts. The scriptures right here. Let's bring up the scriptures right here. Let's go over here and let's go here. Okay, now we were actually going to, we were studying up on today's daily psalm for the podcast, right? The broadcast and the podcast right here. Let's do this right here. We already had one in the previous search. Boom, right there. Afflict and soul, right? Afflict and soul. So here, in Leviticus chapter 16, it speaks to the Day of the Atonements. The fuller name is the Day of the Atonements. right? Atonements, not just the day of a atonement. Saying Yom Kippur is the day of a atonements. From the scripts, it's the day of the atonements, right? So here, this verse here is now connected here with, the fasting point. Do we fast to fast or not to fast on the day of the atonements, right? The day of the atonements. So right here, let's view more right here, right? Let's view more right here, and let's go over here, right? Let's go over here. This whole chapter, right? It's this whole chapter right here that concerns, right? This whole chapter right here, it concerns the rite and the ritual, the overview of the Day of the Atonement right here, right? The Day of the Atonements. Now, in the verse that we just pointed to right here, let's read this verse, get the point about to fast or not to fast. And this shall be a statute forever to you. Now we say to you, not un. So if you listen carefully, we won't say unto you, but we say to, right? Because un means not. So, and Rastafari elders taught I and I that, they said pick sense out of nonsense, what might seem like nonsense, but there's a very important sense. If I say something's unclean, unkind, undone, that means it's not. If I say unto you, it's not to you. See? Sight? You hear? Shema Yisrael. Sema, Rastafari. Hear this. And this shall be a statute forever to you, that in the 7th month, the 7th moon, on the 10th day of the month, the moon, ye y'all, I and I all, speaking to I and I, shall afflict your souls, and do no work at all, whether it be one of your own country or a stranger that sojourneth among you, right? So here, getting to the Hebrew, let's get to the Hebrew right here. Let's scroll down right here to the Tanakh. See the Tanakh. That name, we don't agree with the name, but the scrolls themselves, they contain the necessary information. Tanakh is an acronym, right? But it's the best version when we're going into like these software's reference points. You can see down here we have the keywords, right? The keywords highlighted to help us in our study. So here it says, B'Shem Ha'Abba Ha'Bein Wa'Ruach HaKadosh Ahua Achad, name the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, He who be the one. With Haita Lakem Lechukat Olam Ba Chodesh Ha-Shabi'i Be Asor La Chodesh Te Anu Et Naf Shotekem. Let's just highlight that verse right there. This is the verse right here. This says, Te Anu, speaking to all of you, Te Anu, right? Y'all to afflict, et, definite article, non-definite article, object marker. It's the object marker that points to what the object of the verb. So Te Anu is y'all afflicting what? Et, pointing to what? To be afflicted. Naf Shotekem. Naf Shotekem, reading from right to left. We call me laka lo ta esu ha ezrach we ha gir ha gar betokekem amongst I and I. So the key phrase here regarding afflict your souls, here is speaking to like all of us, like saying you all of you, right? Especially all of you mind them, right? All of you mind them. Remember, 3 times in a year shall all the males of Yisrael appear, right? Te anu et naf shotekem. Te anu et naf shotekem. That's what's highlighted right there, right? All of you to afflict. Now let's go down right here and let's now bring out this word right here. Bringing out this word right here. We gotta take it off of this right here, the highlight, and where are we right here? We are, boom. It's the H6031, right? So te anu is from Anna. So te anu is from Anna, right? Now, the BDB, first let's go to the strong. Let's go to strong. Strongs tend to be more direct. The BDB sometimes is on point, sometimes it's not quite, right? So Strong's is usually our first go-to, and then we'll check out the BDB. So Te'anu, all of y'all, speaking to us, speaking to like the you all, y'all, right? Te'anu et nafashotekem, y'all to afflict your soul. So Te'anu is from Anna. It's a primitive root, some say possibly rather identical with the H60 31 with Anna. Anna is to answer, respond. Right? So we have Anna, let's go down here. We have the word Anna, right? And then there's the word Ain. Ain is the eye. Ain is the eye, right? Properly to eye, to heed, to pay attention, by implication to respond, by extension to begin to speak, to sing, to shout, to testify. Now, the italicization, we have to learn how to read the intelligently, linguistically, the Strong's definition. Because we hear some ones and ones, they're getting into the Strong's definition, but how they bring it out, they really don't understand how it's written, just the basics, right? How it's written, right? Give account, afflict. Now, some say by mistake you see what by mistake, because these two words, they're basically the same glyphs in the Hebrew, but it's the context that makes the sense, right? The context. So we have Anna, which means in one sense to afflict, and the very same word Anna, which means to answer, right? To answer, kind of like begin to speak, answer. Then we have le'anot, right? Le'anot, right here, it's like a place, that person's name, place name, so forth and so on, right? But let's go back to this right here. We just pointed to that because it's important to do due diligence, to show that sometimes there are words that may seem, and essentially they seem like the same word, but the context makes all the difference. And Anna is one of those. So here they say through the idea, but the meaning of this one in this sense here is very correct, right? Looking down, browbeating, but the sense of Anna is to depress, literally or figuratively, transitively or intransitively, the various applications. Here they say in the singular is by mistake for, so they say in the singular sense, sometimes these words get, can be, right, mistaken by some, right? The word to afflict and to answer, right? That's why it says to answer. But the more correct outside of the bracket right there, to chasten self, to deal harshly with, to, some say defile, exercise force, right? To humble, right? Self. So all of these bring out the sense of getting up here, the Anna, in the sense of what are we to do to nafshotekem? What are we to do to our souls, our psyches? It's also important to understand that the soul, in the Shemitic language, the Afro-Shemitic language like Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew, as well as the Royal Amharic and the Ge'ez, in the Shemitic languages, the soul is feminine. I just let that sink in for a moment. The soul is feminine, whether it's in a male, right? A male has a soul that, according to the Hebrew science and the science of the creation, and the soul is feminine, right? The soul is feminine. Just to point that out right there. It's a very important point to point out. But now the BDB brings this out, and this is also accurate, right? To be occupied, to be busied with, in its first, the kal sense of the verb, to afflict, to oppress, or to like down press, to humble, to be afflicted, to be bowed down, right? Then it goes into, some of the more detailed senses of it. Now, when you study the Hebrew, there's different patterns, and the different patterns show you different forms of the word. Therefore, what is showing here as we go down the different entries correspond to the binyanim, what's called the binyanim, the patterns in the Hebrew. But here, in the basic sense, the kal sense, to be put down, to become low, to be depressed, downcast, be afflicted, to stoop. The Nephile sense is to humble oneself, to bow down, to be afflicted, to be humble. The PL sense is to humble, to mishandle, to afflict, to humble, to be humiliated, to afflict, to humble, to weaken oneself. The Pual sense is to be afflicted, right? What's it? Ti, anu, right? To be afflicted, to be humble, right? Humbled. The Hefil sense is to afflict. The Hitpael sense is to like humble oneself, right? To be afflicted. All right. Now each of these particular entries, when we're studying the Hebrew, there's a different pattern. It's like the basic root word takes on a different construct, right? It takes on a different pattern. It's patterns. Just keep patterns in mind right there, right? So here, the general sense. Let's go back up here. The general sense, the words that keep coming up, right? To be occupied, to be busy, but to afflict. That sense of afflicting, humbling, down pressing in a sense, bowing down in that sense. The sense of humbling oneself, to humble one's nefesh, naf shotekem, our psyche, right? To humble our psyche. Right, the seat of our, we say, feelings, emotions, our active self, the seat of our feelings and emotions, right, our psyches, our souls, right. So here, just going into that, bringing that out right here, right. Once again, the key phrase, the key phrase, Ti anu et naf shotekem, et naf shotekem, right. So here, afflict. Ye shall afflict your souls. Now, what's interesting about the 7 appointments, the 7 appointed feasts of Jehovah, of Yahuwah HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hashem, this is the only one. Most of them are times of feasting and merriment and joy and celebration, but it's only the 6th of the 7 that is about afflicting our soul. And the 6th of the 7, which is different in a sense from all the other ones, where we actually are commanded in a sense on one day to really humble ourselves, to afflict our souls, to anu et naf shotekem, right, and not to do any work. So it is similar to a Sabbath, but we know that there's 2 kinds of Sabbaths basically. There's a Sabbath, the week, the 7th day Sabbath. When we study the scripture, we can point to those scriptural references. The 7th day Sabbath and the holy days are also termed Shabbats or Shabbatons, like Sabbath of Sabbaths. But for this, you can say a day that we do no other work, right? We do something we don't do on any other Shabbats, on any other feasts or festivals, afflict our souls. On most of the other feasts and festivals, the command is to be joyful. The command is to rejoice. There's a command. The command is to rejoice. So in keeping the command on the other days to rejoice, but here on the Yom HaKippurim is to afflict our souls. So to fast or not to fast. Remember, no fasting on Shabbat days. Right? There are some maybe denominations, some traditions, some individuals which might think so, and they might do so, but that's not according to Torah, that's not according to the scripts, right? Now, let's go here again, afflict the soul. So this is the first entry, right? There are about 14 verses. We're just going to scroll through. This is also concerning the Day of the Atonements. Leviticus chapter 16 is what is read during the Shacharit. The Shacharit is the dawning, what's called the morning, right? But the dawning service, right? So this is read, in the day, actually around this time of the day. It's about like 9 something a.m. right now as we're recording this on the 16th of September, which is on the Yom HaKippurim. Here we have verse 31. It shall be a Shabbat of rest to you. So yes, Yom HaKippurim is a Sabbath, but it's unlike the weekly Sabbath, the 7th day Sabbath, right, where we do no work, but we do eat, rest, and refresh ourselves, enjoy and delight in the Shabbat and delight in His Word. Right? So we eat food and we eat that Word, we eat that manna of the Word. All right, so here in Leviticus 16:31, speaking about the sixth of the seven appointment, the Mo'edei Yahweh, right, the Mo'edim, the appointments. On the sixth of the seven appointments, we have Yom HaKippurim, the day of the atonements. Not Yom Kippur, but Yom HaKippurim, according to the scripts. Here it says, it shall be a Sabbath of rest to you, and ye all shall afflict your souls. So again, this very same chapter 16 of Leviticus, is focusing on Yom HaKippurim, the Day of the Atonement, and afflicting our psyches, afflicting our souls. It says, by a statute forever. Right? Then when we go over here to Leviticus 23:27, it says, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, is speaking about the same time, this time here, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be an holy convocation to you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offering made by fire, la Yahweh, to Jehovah. Let's go into this verse as well right here, right? Because some would say, like, kill a bird with one stone, but we'll say kill two birds with one stone. Some would say, we say, feed two birds with one piece of bread. Like, let's address both of these subject matters right here. Here we have ak. Now this is ak. This is like for sure, certainly, verily. Not ach. Ach is brother. Here we have ak. Ak is like for sure, right? Be'asor la chodesh ha-shabi'i hazeh Yom HaKippurim. You see it right here. Boom. Just bring this out right here. Yom HaKippurim. HaKippurim, the day of the Kippurim, the day of the atonements. Anyone knows Ibrit, Hebrew? You know that HaKippurim is plural. It didn't say Yom HaKippur. It says Yom HaKippurim, the day of the atonements. It says, who Mikra Kodesh Yihyeh Lakem we nitem eta nafa shotekem we hikarabtem ishe la Yahweh, ishe la Yahweh, fire offering to Jehovah. So here just to prove the point that Ak, this is Ak. It's not brother. Brother is Ach. We have Ak here. Ak means indeed, surely, right? Or in a restrictive sense, howbeit only, yet, right? Surely, like for sure, certainly, for sure, right? So here we have it right here, and we have the afflict, right? It says, with initem. This word, with initem, is from that ana. Remember ana, to be occupied, busy with, right? To afflict, to oppress, downpress, humble, right? To afflict the soul, to bow down the soul. So this is what makes Yom HaKippurim different than every other Shabbat, than every other day of rest. Because the only time that we are commanded to afflict our soul. Doesn't mean it's the only time our soul will be afflicted, but on this time, we are commanded to afflict our soul, like on the other feast day, Mo'edim, of Yahuwah, of Jehovah. We are told and commanded to rejoice and to be joyful, to be happy, right? Check it out. Chapter 23 of Leviticus, go through all 7, right? So we just want to zoom in on that right there, right? Feed 2 birds with 1 piece of bread instead of killing 2 with 1 stone. Feed 2 with 1 piece of bread. Rastafari said, right? Here we have Leviticus 23:29, for whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted, right? In that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. Actually, this in the Hebrew says that she shall be cut off from her people, because the soul, remember, the soul is she. All right, we're just going to touch on this very briefly right here. Right here it says, Ki kol ha-nefesh asher lo te'uneh be'etzem hayom hazeh ve'nikareta me ameha. If it was, this says, from her people, because it is not speaking of the man, the outer man, but it's speaking of the inner soul, ha-nefesh, ha-nefesh, right, ha-nefesh. So it says every soul, right, every soul that will not be afflicted, right, that will not be afflicted in that same day, the psyche will be cut off. Physically, they're one of God's people, but they're not feeling, right, Yahweh, truth, and life like those of us who are obedient to Yahweh. You know what I'm saying? Right? So it goes on to say right here, right, in the next couple verses, Leviticus 23:32, it shall be to you a Shabbat of rest. So it's a Sabbath. Yes, it's a Sabbath, but it's a different sort of Sabbath. Remember, there's two kinds of Sabbath. There's the weekly Sabbath, and there's the annual Sabbath, or the Sabbaths of the holy times, the feasts, the festivals, the appointments. And it says, and ye shall afflict your souls. Here, when? In the 9th day of the month at even, from even to even, and shall celebrate your Shabbat. So this is a different Shabbat than the other Shabbats. All right? And we can go through elsewhere in the Torah where it explains the two kinds of Shabbats. The Shabbat is a weekly for the strong, every 7 days. You could say holiday, Isla day. Right? On that day, we rest from work. We don't do any work, but we do eat and rejoice. We eat physical food, rejoice. We prepare our food before, so we don't have to prepare our food on the Shabbat day, because that can be considered to be working. Right? So here we have Shabbat. Right? So now this is an important verse right here, because this verse here connects with to fast or not to fast. Now, according to the tried and tradition among the black Jews, and even among the Latter-day and even white Jews and other brown and other Jews of other ethnicities, right? Ones who are faithful to the Judaic liberty, we can say, right? They choose to fast, right? They see fasting as a form of afflicting of the soul. And definitely fasting is a good way to get into the affliction of the soul, like to afflict. In other words, by fasting from food, right, it causes us to focus more on our psycho-spiritual being by fasting from food, right? I think Archbishop Yitzhak, in his book Ethiopian Tewahedo Church, an integrally African church, in that book he goes into it, quoting some of the ancient Israelite of Ethiopia and Ethiopian Hebrew and churchical manuscripts and teachings, right? That fasting from food helps to weaken the force of the body, the outer man, the carnal, the body, and helps us to focus more on the psychical and the spiritual, focus more on our soul, right? By fasting from food, right? So it's a tool. Fasting can be a tool and can be used in that sense to afflict the soul. But the key is that it doesn't say how one will afflict their soul, but that one shall afflict their soul. Check. It says that one shall afflict their soul. So it's more from the practice of one's afflicting the soul by way of fasting. So fasting is used. Then we found something else that was very interesting. Let's keep this verse in mind, 23:32. It's like a mirror image right there, right? Leviticus 23:32. Let's scroll on to the next page, right? Now, on the next page, it goes into Numbers, the next book, Numbers 29:7. And ye shall have on the 10th day of the 7th month a holy Mikra Kodesh, a holy alcohol gathering, and ye shall afflict your souls, and ye shall not do any work therein. And then we have right here, now this is not speaking about the Day of Atonement, but it's speaking about vows. Interesting, the Kol Nidre connection. Every binding oath to afflict the soul, says her husband may establish it or her husband may make it void. Now it's interesting that the soul is feminine and the husband establishing his wife's vow or making it void concerning the soul feminine, his woman, his Isha, also feminine, and also the connection of vows and the Kol Nidre, all vows. Just a point right there. Job 30:16 says, and now my soul is poured out upon me, the days of affliction have taken hold upon me. Now if you notice, all these words are related. Here's oni, right? Oni, like affliction, oni, poverty, oni, from the same ana root, right? Depression, oni, Oni. Remember Rachel, when she was about to pass away and she gave birth to Benjamin, she named him Ben Oni. Remember that? Yeah. So here it says, and now my soul is poured out upon me. The days of affliction have taken hold upon me. Now, here it's interesting. Here's one of the main reasons why many faithful Yehudi and those Judaically in the Judahite tribe would fast and take scriptural authority or reference here in this verse here. Psalm 35:13. But as for I, when they were sick, my clothing was sackcloth. I humbled. Now you notice the word humbled, right? The word humble is the same word. Let's bring it up. Is the ana. So the translator chose here not saying afflicted. He could have said, they could have translated it as I afflicted my soul with fasting. You see that? So with fasting. So the command says to afflict the soul, and here in Psalm 35:13. We have Dawid saying like, I humbled my soul. I afflicted my soul by way of fasting. So here fasting, right, or psalm, as we have, right, in the Amharic and the Ethiopic too, psalm. Psalm is fasting. Psalm, right? Psalm is fasting from sum, right, to abstain from food. I abstain from food, right? Humbling the soul, afflicting the soul. Psalm, abstaining from food, fast, right? To cover over, so forth and so on, to cover over the mouth. Like, to cover the mouth in that sense, like I'm not eating, right? I'm not going to eat, right? Afflicting one's soul, feeling emotion, one's nefesh, right? So here we see, I humble my soul with fasting. It's the same word used elsewhere in translation as afflicted. I afflicted my soul with fasting, and my prayer returned into mine own bosom. So it's from verses like this in the scripts that, according to the ancient tribe, even, before Robbeinu Yeshua HaMoshiach, the birth of I Rabbi, the Rabbi of Rabbi, Yeshua HaMoshiach, Jesus Christus, Mem Harachin, before his time even, this was practiced. Especially we can trace this back to the time, many of the core Yehudi Judaic practices that are scripturally referenceable, right, can be traced at the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, right? So here, this is one of the reasons why for Yom HaKippurim, many would choose, right, and many scholars and teachers, right, would teach the lay people that would seek to fulfill this, say, fast. You afflict your soul. One of the most direct ways to afflict the soul is to abstain from food. That's why it says, I humble my soul with fasting. You check where it says in the previous over here, what was it, 32 right here? It says, ye shall afflict your souls. It don't say how one shall afflict their souls. But now David here in Psalm 35:13, he gives us the key. A key way, right? So fasting is a means, is one of the main means to humbling or afflicting the soul, thereby fulfilling that command for Yom HaKippurim. See? Right? And here we have in Psalm 143:12, and of thy mercy cut off mine enemies, and destroy all them that afflict my soul. Now, this is another kind of affliction of the enemies that afflict my soul, for I am thy servant. But this is outside of the context here, right, of Yom HaKippurim, right? But this is more in the context of Yom HaKippurim, in the sense that it's showing us that humbling the soul, right, afflicting the soul can be done, right, and achieved by way of fasting, that is to say, abstaining from food, abstaining from Yud Rastaman. Now, note this, that the Yom HaKippurim is a Sabbath, but it's not like the regular Sabbath, the 7th day Sabbath of the Shabuah, of the strong, right, the weekly Sabbath. Here we have Isaiah 51:23. But I will put it into the hand of them that afflict thee. Now, this is a different context, right? Which have said to thy soul, bow down. See what they said to the soul? Bow down. So you see the connection of affliction, bowing down, that we may go over, and has laid thy body as the ground and as a street to them that went over. So now it's speaking of other afflictors of our soul outside of the sense of when we are to afflict our soul in fulfillment of the statute of Yom Kippurim. Isaiah, Yeshayahu 58 and 3, it says, wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not, wherefore have we afflicted our soul. So you see, even here is another connection of fasting in Isaiah, Yeshaya 58 and 3. Right? So we see that from the ancient thought, right? Both from David, the Psalm 35, and also here in Isaiah 58 and 3, fasting connected with afflicting the soul, right? Humbling the soul. And thou takest no knowledge, behold. Now, that's what the people say. Now, this is when the people are boasting, like, yeah, we fast and everything, and look what all we've done. Now, God's response to the prophet Yeshaya is, behold, in the day of your fast, ye find pleasure and exact all your labors. So you say you're fasting, but you're still going about your regular business. So God is saying to them, in this context of the prophet Yeshaya, you're hypocrites. Right? Here in 58 and 5, he now corrects their conception, their faulty conception of fasting. So it's like some are boasting because they do fast, right? The fasting has lost its real intent, but they do this and think that, Jah is fooled, but Jah not fooled by it. Is it such a fast that I have chosen? A day for a man to afflict his soul? So you see the connection even right here now connects the general idea of fulfilling the statute of Yom Kippurim, afflicting the soul with fasting. Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Jah's asking him a question. Is this what your fast is about? Wilt thou call this a fast and an acceptable day to Jehovah? Right? But then he goes on right here, disconnecting the soul and affliction of the soul, humbling of the soul. Yeshaya, Isaiah 58 and 10, it says, if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness shall be as noonday. Let's go into this right here, brothers and sisters, just in a little bit of time that we have here, right? Because after this verse, he goes on to say, is not this the fast that I have chosen? Because, see, they had a fast. It's speaking about our people, the Yehudi, even the black Jews. You know our people, black people. You know how they be. Yeah, we've done all of that. We've, boasting themselves. All right? But John is saying, is it? Is this really what you're doing? Is not this the fast that I have chosen? Y'all have chosen this fast here, where he reproves them. Right? Because they're just an outer thing, not the real inner essence of it. He says the real fast. Now note this. This is why in the vid that we had did previously in Rastafari Sabbatical, to fast or not to fast, we had touched on this. To fast or not to fast, we point to these scriptures here. Is not this the fast that I have chosen? Jah is speaking here that he has chosen. What's the fast that Jah has chosen? To loose the bands of wickedness, of ratchetness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the downpressed go free. And that ye that y'all break every yoke. He said, this is the fast. Is it not to deal, right, thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? In other words, give bread to the hungry. Those who are hungry, feed them, right? Bring the poor to your house. If you have them, you can't, bring them to your house, right? By doing that right there, and the principle of it, you could still be fasting from food yourself, but can you imagine you fasting from bread, but you're feeding somebody else bread, right? And you're taking pleasure in Jah to do so because you hungry yourself. You want to eat some bread, but you're satisfying this because you even know what the prophet Yeshaya has said in Jah's name, right? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh. Then he says, then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. Right? Thine health, right? Aruka, restoration, aruka, right? Shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of Yahuwah, of Jehovah, shall be thy reward, shall be thy reward, shall be thy asaf, thy asaf, thy gathering, thy asaf, as asaf right here, to gather, right? Take note, right? Shall be thy gather thee up. Shall the glory of Jehovah shall be thy reward, shall gather thee up. Right here. Then shalt thou call, and Jehovah shall answer. Remember that word answer? Anna. Remember the Anna. It's an Anna in two senses. If you really afflict your soul, Yahweh, then Jah will honor. He will honor it. He will honor. He will answer. Thou shalt cry, Jah, and he shall say, Here I. If thou take away from the midst of thee, I, the yoke, and the putting forth of the finger, and speaking vanity. If thou draw out thy soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then shall thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as noonday. And Jehovah shall guide thee continually, and satisfy thy soul in drought, and make fat thy bones. And thou shalt be like a watered garden, and like a spring of water, whose waters fail not. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. And they that shall be of thee shall build the old waste places. Thou shalt raise up the foundation of many generations, and thou shalt be called, here's the key, the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. This is what we're called to be, the repairer of the breach, the restorer of paths to dwell in. If thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day. Now, some things get lost in translation. How this sounds right here is a little different than the fuller meaning of it, right? Turn thy foot away from the Sabbath, from doing thy pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight. In other words, if you turn away, right, your foot, right, from, let's see right here, your foot from the Sabbath. Now, what does that mean right there? Turn your foot away from the Sabbath. Let's see if we can do this right here. Brothers and sisters, a little bit longer than we expected right here. Let's get verse 13. We're going too far right there. Okay, verse 13. And just get the Hebrew, because sometimes things get a little lost. And if you keep your feet from trampling the Sabbath, in other words, going out here doing this, doing that, being footloose on the Sabbath, that's the kind of sense right there. Let's go down here. You must observe the Sabbath rather than doing anything you please. That's one translation. Turn your foot from the Sabbath right here. It says, Im tashib mi shabai. If you turn from the Sabbath, ragleka, your foot is sot, chafatzeka. Okay, but yom, yeah. In other words, if you turn your foot from the Sabbath, like the sense, it's a very old archaic expression here, like of doing your own thing. Doing your own thing on the Sabbath, right? If you turn your foot from doing your own thing, from going your own way, right, on the Sabbath, right, and call the Sabbath delight. Some people say, oh, Sabbath time, and they don't take no joy in the Sabbath, right? But the Sabbath is not just about resting on the seventh day, but it's also about working 6 days. Working. You see, if you work and do real work in the other days of the Shabuah, then the Sabbath truly is a delight. The holy, the isle of Jehovah, honorable, and shalt honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, nor speaking thine own words. Because the words that we should be speaking is words of HaTorah. Seen? Sight? You hear? Shema, Sima. Then shalt thou delight thyself in Jehovah. Notice that. It's like by keeping and observing the Shabbat, Yahweh, that's pleasing to Jah, we take even more delight in he who be, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Baruch Hashem. And if thou, right, it says, if thou, right here, go back to that right there, if thou turn away thy foot from the Sabbath, from trampling the Sabbath by doing your own pleasure on his Isla day. But instead of doing your own thing, call the Shabbat a delight, the Isla, the holy, the set apart of Jehovah, honorable, and shall honor him. We call the Sabbath as honorable, And we honor him, not doing thine own ways, nor finding thine own pleasure, things that we might just want to do, nor speaking thine own words. Right? So these are all key indications of the proper keeping of Yom HaShabbat. Then shalt thou delight thyself in Jehovah, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Yaakov, thy father. For the mouth of Yahweh of Jehovah hath spoken it. So yes, yes, yes. Here. Right? Here. This word here. So hopefully, basically, it's a little bit longer than we thought, how it is when we get into just some of the basics, just to bring it forward. It's not, we're not seeking to ramble here, you know what I mean? Though sometimes I give thanks for the check on that, just to focus, to focus. Focus on the subject matter at hand, but just to bring this out right here, brothers and sisters and brothers, right here. Yes, I, Rastafari. Yes, I. So here, just don't take a screenshot of this right here. Yom HaKippurim. All right, so tune in. Looking forward, onward and upward. Yes, I, Rastafari. All right, it's a judgment time. It's a judgment season. The Wudui, the confession. Yes, I, Day of the Atonement, Yom HaKippurim. Yes, I hail up to Yizkor, remembrance, memorial for those who are departed, I and our brothers, and those of this tribe, Hugh Mandel. Wonderful tune for this time. Book of Life, the Book of Life. Yes, I, in the Book of Life. Rastafari Yom HaKippurim, the Day of the Atonements, watching and praying. Yes, I. The Psalm 79 was the, first light psalm, right? First light psalm, right? We have, Psalm, 30? What was the song we just was on? Psalm 35, 32. I think it's around 32. Yeah, 32. Very interesting for this season, for this time. Rastafari, heart and mind. Yes, I, brothers and sisters. So here. Yeah, we'll seal up right here. Yes, I, with the Yom HaKippurim right here. To fast or not to fast on the Yom HaKippurim. Well, no fasting, right, on the Shabbat. But one may, right? No fasting on the Shabbat day. Right? Talking about the 7th day Shabbat, like the weekly Shabbat, right? The regular Shabbat day, right? But one may, right, fast on Yom Kippur, Yom HaKippurim, right? And we went into the scripture areas, what the scripture actually says, also the connection with fasting, as Dawid says that he humbled his soul. In Psalm 35, he humbled his soul, right? He afflicted his soul with fasting, and also in the prophet Yeshaya brings out the connection of the affliction of the soul and fasting, because that was an ancient tribe and tradition to do so. Although when John said afflict the soul, he could have said fast specifically, but that was not used, right? Because there's also other ways that one can afflict, the soul. For some of us who live a certain life and a liberty that doesn't focus on just eating food all the time. Some people say that, we can go like a whole day, maybe have a little bit in the morning and go the whole day, and have a little bit late at night, maybe a little bit in the evening or something to eat, and we don't really eat like some people eat. So for some of us, we can go like several hours without eating. Right, so just abstaining from food doesn't really afflict our soul in that sense, So some have to go to a higher height, right? But for people who are regular folks, they like to eat and so on and so on. Now to have to not eat for 24, 25 hours, wow, that's going to be a real affliction of the soul, and would help them, to get past the carnal, mind, and more into the psychical and the spiritual mind. Yes, I, in this season, in this hour, and most importantly, in this time. Yes, I. So, Gemar Khatima Toba, may the I be sealed in the book of life, the book of liberty, for a good sealing. Gemar Khatima Toba. That is the greeting here. This time we don't usually say happy Yom Kippur. That's not, we don't say that, but we say may you be sealed. May the I and I be sealed in the book of life, in the Sefer HaChaim, with a good sealing. And here, brothers and sisters and brothers, we are going to seal, right? Seal up. Yes, I, Rastafari.